If you do have high cholesterol markers, then you should be concerned about high blood sugars because they will elevate your blood cholesterol levels. Now, temporary sugar spikes after eating carbohydrates, do you have dangerous cholesterol levels or just high cholesterol? Instead of being confused with the online debate about cholesterol, don't you just want to know what you can eat and what not to eat? So let's dive right in and set some metabolic ground rules that will help you improve your health. First, let's talk about lipoprotein little a. That's the blood test you need to go get. Every person should have a lipoprotein little a level at least once in your lifetime, regardless of your family history. Now, if you do have a family history, it could be one of two things, your genes or your environment. And 30% of people, their genes dictate their cholesterol levels. Now, if you are in this camp, no matter how clean you eat, your body will struggle with higher cholesterol levels. It's like trying to row a boat with a hole in it. Now, some of these people are superabsorbers. They have genes to program their intestines to suck up every cholesterol molecule from their gut. It's like a robot floor cleaner picking up dust. Other people have genes that prevent the liver from clearing cholesterol lipoproteins in their bloodstream. It's like trying to clean up dust with a broken vacuum. Now, it just takes one parent to pass on a high cholesterol gene. And your doctor can send a simple lipoprotein A test to let you know if you are at risk. See a cardiologist if your primary doctor is unsure what to send. But before you blame bad genes, it's important to understand that other medical conditions can affect your cholesterol levels too. Now, if you have a sick liver, your cholesterol could actually be normal or even low, as ultimately your liver is the primary organ that makes your blood cholesterol. And this is one reason why just looking at one lab marker can misguide you. This is also why it's important to see a real medical doctor and not a social media guru. You need to make sure that you don't have underlying inflammation or maybe some hormonal or organ damage that indirectly cause abnormal high cholesterol or low cholesterol levels. But if you do find a social media medical doctor and you want to know if they are legit, look for this sign at the bottom of their YouTube video and look them up on the state medical board database in which they are licensed. Be sure to read all their violations, if any. If you're on any medications, they can also elevate your cholesterol level. And really, all medications, they interfere with your metabolism, and your cholesterol is a part of your metabolism. But in everyone, the more cholesterol-raising foods you eat, the faster cholesterol piles up and stays higher for longer. Now, you can't change your genes, but you can change your health, no matter which camp you're in, for better and for worse, depending on what you eat. So here are 3 simple rules to find foods that won't raise your cholesterol while optimizing your metabolism to lower cholesterol and improve your blood flow and vitality. Number 1, eat more whole foods rich in fiber. Number 2, eat foods that help you poop more than once a day. Number 3, stay away from engineered ingredients. And I bet you probably have a few in your pantry right now. So let's talk about some actual examples. Number 1 is a navy bean, which is packed with soluble fiber that could potentially activate 3.3 million genes in your gut, but it's actually in your gut microbiome. And those genes, when they're activated, they help you poop. And when you poop, you lose bile, which is full of cholesterol. So if you are a super absorber, you need to be a super pooper to lower your cholesterol. This is not the same as diarrhea, which is watery stool that happens more than 3 times a day. This is a Bristol stool chart. What you want is a type 3 to 4 easy to pass poop. Type 1 to 2 are poop pluggers that will cause you constipation and make your cholesterol go up. And this is because your intestine will have more time to suck up cholesterol from your gut. Now, type 5 to 7 is diarrhea, or I call it panty pooping. That means you should talk to your doctor, especially if you can't figure out how to fix it. And how you poop is largely dependent upon what you're feeding your gut microbiome. Doctors have ignored for decades the role of the gut microbiome when it comes to cholesterol metabolism. In the old days, nobody knew that microbes can change cholesterol into non-absorbable metabolites that can help lower cholesterol levels. But if you think about it, bacteria, they are amazing. They can clean up large oil spills in the oceans. And to help you with cholesterol, you need specific gut bacteria that can convert cholesterol into Coprostanol, which is a molecule you can't absorb. But then, if you eat the right foods with soluble fiber, that's another way to tackle the problem. Certain gut bacteria ferment soluble fibers into short-chain fatty acids, such as acetate, propionate, and butyrate. Butyrate is literally the electricity for your colon to have the energy to push your poop down the toilet. Propionate interacts with your immune system to downregulate the Niemann-Pick C1-like-1 transporter to reduce the amount of cholesterol your intestine can absorb. And when you block this transporter, you actually reduce cholesterol levels. And that's how ezetimibe works. But nature has you covered with food. Feed your best friends, and they can make metabolites to block cholesterol absorption naturally. Have you ever had pain in your right upper quadrant? Or maybe feeling a little nauseous after a fatty meal? That could be your gallbladder acting up. And if it continues, you should really see a doctor that same day. Your gallbladder stores bile fluid that's made by your liver. And guess what's in your bile fluid? Cholesterol, which makes the bile salts. The liver produces about 500 to 600 milliliters of bile salts every day. Bile is stored in the gallbladder and released into the small intestine whenever you eat fatty foods. Now, if you had your gallbladder removed, then your bile is constantly dripping in your small intestine, and every day you have about 500 milliliters of bile that flows directly into your small intestines between meals. And if you pooped it out in the toilet, you should be losing a ton of cholesterol. Actually, 95% of those bile salts, they're reabsorbed back into the bloodstream. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you can reduce how much you reabsorb? And there are several ways to do it. And it starts by, number one, building a fiber wall. This fiber wall should be made out of whole foods, specifically ones high in soluble fiber. Now, if you actually lost all that bile, that will force your liver to pull more cholesterol from your bloodstream to make new bile acids. And that would result in lower blood cholesterol levels. Now, bile excretion can also be enhanced by certain gut bacteria that produce an enzyme called bile salt hydrolase, which separates bile salts, making them easier to poop out. Now, some bacteria strains can also incorporate cholesterol directly into their own cell membranes, which is another way to reduce the amount of cholesterol absorbed by your intestines. There's actually several superstar bacteria to help out this problem. Number one is lactobacillus species, such as Lactobacillus acidophilus and Lactobacillus plantarum. They are known for their bile salt hydrolase activity, and some can also directly incorporate cholesterol into their own cells. Number two is Bifidobacterium species, like Bifidobacterium longum and Bifidobacteria lactis. These bacteria can produce short-chain fatty acids and separate bile salts. Now, number three is Akkermansia mucinophilia. This is your gut's best friend, and people with higher levels of Akkermansia have healthier guts and metabolism. It also helps with bile acid metabolism and the production of short-chain fatty acids. Number four is Eubacterium coprostanolungenes. That's a mouthful. That's a superstar at making coprostanol, a non-absorbable molecule that's made from cholesterol. So the trick is, how can you get these friendly bacteria? Well, by eating prebiotic foods like navy beans. Navy beans have non-digestible fibers and phytonutrients attached to fibers that feed these beneficial bacteria. 19 grams of fiber is more than what 95% of Americans eat in an entire day. Now, navy beans, they're not so tasty by themselves. But if you added more prebiotic spicy foods like garlic, which is number two, and number three, onions, you have more prebiotic fibers like inulin and fructooligosaccharides to feed your lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. So I try to eat onions and garlic with my navy beans because they just make them taste better. And by the way, did you know that raw garlic is known to be protective of cancer? It has a unique nutrient called allicin. Now, if raw garlic is too spicy, then you can cook it. And the best way to cook garlic and preserve the allicin is to simmer it for less than 15 minutes. Now, if you're going to boil it, go for less than 6 minutes. If you're going to stir fry it, do it for less than a minute. But my favorite way is to roast the garlic in its skin, which preserves twice as much allicin compared to boiled garlic. Have you seen those black garlic? Or maybe you're a fan of pickled garlic. Well, there's a lot less allicin in those foods. So I don't eat black garlic. The best part about garlic is that the allicin also works on reducing systemic inflammation. There are countless reasons for why your body gets inflamed. Let's start with air pollution. We all know tobacco is a problem, and so is living by or sitting on the freeways in your car, and so is cooking. And simply by not smoking, rolling up your car windows, ventilating your home when you cook, and getting a HEPA filter in your home at all times, you can significantly reduce your inflammation from air pollution. And if you have high blood pressure, could that be from air pollution? It's so common and yet under-recognized as a source of inflammation. Do you guys remember reading The Magic School Bus and how Miss Frizzle would shrink her bus to go travel in the human body? The cartoon makes her travel so peaceful, but if you're in the blood vessel, it's anything but peaceful. It's worse than driving in the eye of a hurricane in Florida. And when you're in the middle of a hurricane, you're going to be knocked around and things are going to crash into you. Did you know that the force of a normal blood pressure is 3 to 5 times higher than the force of a Category 5 hurricane on your blood vessel wall? In fact, a blood pressure of 120 millimeters of mercury, which is almost normal, is equal to 16,000 pascals of pressure. A Category 5 hurricane has winds over 157 miles per hour, which can exert 5,000 pascals of pressure. And as your blood pressure goes up, the pressure on your blood vessels, that multiplies. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, his blood pressure at the time of his deadly stroke was 8 times higher than the force exerted by the Category 5 hurricane winds. And you can imagine that anything and everything in your blood is being knocked around against the walls of your arteries, including your cholesterol lipoproteins. That doesn't sound so good, huh? Why do you need cholesterol lipoproteins? Well, it's chemistry. Your blood is made out of water, and your cholesterol is a type of fat. Water and fat, they don't mix. So cholesterol can't travel in your blood and it precipitates out. To fix this problem, lipoprotein shuttles were invented. These lipoprotein submarine spheres shuttle cholesterol around in your body. They're called lipoprotein little a or apolipoprotein B. They both transport cholesterol in the blood. There is one apolipoprotein B in every single lipoprotein that transports cholesterol. Now, if you're sitting in a bus in the middle of a hurricane, do you really think you're going to stay in the bus or get flung around? And this is what's happening to cholesterol as they travel in these lipoprotein shuttles. These shuttles, they get knocked in the walls of your artery. And when this happens, they get gobbled up by immune cells called macrophages. Remember, once cholesterol comes out, it just precipitates because it doesn't mix with blood. So then you have a pile of cholesterol trash stuck on your arterial walls. But your body, it doesn't like trash there. So there's always some kind of trash collector, and that's the job of your macrophage. They wait in your arterial walls to help clean anything up. The problem is they don't have a backup plan. Once they gobble up cholesterol, they're stuck with it. So then the macrophage, they get fatter and fatter. They're full of cholesterol trash, and then they become a foamy macrophage. Now, when my kids were small, we volunteered to store water bottles and recyclables for their cousins. But the recycling center was closed near our house. So for a long time, the bottles and cans, they would just be piling up in our garage, and it took over our garage, and some of the fluid actually leaked, and so it started to smell and attract ants. That was just such a mess. It was so bad we couldn't park our car in the garage because there's so many recyclables. And that's what's happening with foamy macrophages in the arterial wall. The mess is called a plaque. There's so much of it that it reduces your blood flow. And this whole inflammatory process, it's called atherosclerosis. Unfortunately, plaque, it doesn't just obstruct traffic, but it weakens your blood vessel wall so that it could potentially rip apart, especially if you're having more than 5 times the amount of hurricane grade force. So it's in your best interest to have the least amount of cholesterol lipoproteins in your blood at any given time, which translates into better blood flow, better metabolism, less chronic diseases, lower blood pressure, lower dementia risk, better immunity, better looking skin, and a better quality of life for a longer duration of time. But I know that most people, they don't just eat beans, they eat beans with rice. Now, rice, it tastes great, but it's not really nutritious food because it's so low in fiber, especially white rice. But if you upgraded it to a dual grain powerhouse with barley and oats, number 4 and 5, then you'll be adding more soluble fiber, high in beta-glucans, which further feeds lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. And when you eat whole grains, you're actually eating a mixture of fibers and resistant starch. And you can make more resistant starch by cooking your grains ahead of time refrigerating it, and then eating it the next day. This biohack reduces the glycemic index of that starch because the cold transforms those starches into resistant starches. You'll have a better effect if you use oat groats and not instant oats, especially if you want more nutrients like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. This protects you from blood sugar spikes. Now, if you do have high cholesterol markers, then you should be concerned about high blood sugars because they will elevate your blood cholesterol levels. Now, temporary sugar spikes after eating carbohydrates, they're actually perfectly normal. Everybody who eats carbohydrates will have some sort of sugar spike as long as they're absorbing those carbohydrates. And how high your sugar goes depends on what form of carbohydrates you're eating, what you're eating with that carbohydrate. It depends on your gut microbiome, your muscle mass, and your insulin sensitivity. So if you're eating carbohydrates and you don't have sugar spikes, then you're either eating them with whole foods rich in fiber, eating them with a lot of fat, or you're not absorbing them. People think eating fat with carbs is a good idea. It's actually not a good idea. All you're doing is delaying the sugar spike because fat prolongs gastric emptying time. That means it takes longer for the food to leave your stomach. So if you're going to lay down or have a hiatal hernia, then fatty foods, they're just going to cause you to have more reflux. But not all fats are the same. When you eat saturated fats, you not only artificially delay the time the food leaves your stomach, but you also reduce the amount of bile salts that you will excrete because that bile gets reabsorbed faster as they are used to absorb your fatty meal. And when saturated fat is absorbed through your intestine, any extra fat is actually packaged into little fat globules called triglycerides and cholesterols on carrier vehicles called chylomicrons that go through your lymphatic system. Now, the only way the lymphatic system communicates with your circulatory system is around your neck in a tube called the thoracic duct. And the reason why you have fats is because they are an excellent source of energy for your muscles all over your body. Your muscles will extract some of the fat in these chylomicrons, and then these chylomicrons, they get smaller and smaller as the fats leave, and ultimately the cholesterol concentrates inside and gets higher and higher. Now, as they change their size, we give them different names like VLDL, IDL, and ultimately LDL, which is the most concentrated cholesterol particle in your blood.
Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Now, when we talk about engineered foods or ultra-processed foods, we're talking about foods that have been put together by ingredients that have gone through so much processing that the end product is a man-made creation that resembles nothing like the original whole food. And when you eat these products, they trick your brain into eating something harmful for your body. Now, it's like shopping for a car that ends up to be a lemon. It looks beautiful, it smells beautiful. When you sit in it, it's comfortable, but when you drive it, it falls apart and it gets you into a car crash. That's literally what ultra-processed engineered foods are doing to your body and your brain. It's tricking you to buy it, and then when you actually are trying to live, trying to run on that fuel, your metabolism crashes. Remember when you're a kid, your parents talked to you about stranger danger? Don't talk to a stranger. Don't take food from a stranger. Don't get in a car from a stranger. Well, we actually need to have these rules for food dangers or food flags. Food flag number 1, don't eat ingredients that you can't pronounce. Food flag number 2, don't eat things that most people don't have in the kitchen, like artificial colors, xanthan gum, and carrageenan. That's not food, and if you have them in your pantry, please throw them away. They are very bad for you. Food flag number 3 is this chemical known as sucrose or cane sugar. This is granulated sugar. Sometimes you'll find it as powdered sugar. I'm sure you have some in your cupboard. I have some in my kitchen because my family wants to eat some. This is actually organic, pure sugar cane. But this looks nothing like sugarcane. And this tastes nothing like sugarcane. And even if I had 100 sugar canes, I would never be able to make this myself. And if you are a PhD chemist, you're going to never be able to glue all these sugar granules together to make a sugar cane. And this is because sugar cane is made up of so much more than just sucrose. It's literally wood-like fibers, cellulose, that's infused with vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, and it has macronutrients like proteins, fats, and sugars. By the way, all plants have fat and protein, but some just don't have a lot of it. And when your diet is heavily centered on a chemical, industrialized chemical called sucrose, even though this is not fat, has no fat at all, it becomes fat when you overeat it. And this increases your blood cholesterol levels, especially your triglycerides. Number 6 are apples. Eat a lot of apples because they can help lower your cholesterol and triglycerides. They are rich in soluble fiber, particularly pectin. And this type of fiber binds to cholesterol in the digestive system, preventing cholesterol to be reabsorbed. It also has insoluble fiber in apples, which adds bulk and hydration to your stools. And by increasing stool bulk, you actually poop more often, and this makes you less constipated. In addition, the fiber feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which produces short-chain fatty acids to give you those beneficial metabolites that we talked about earlier. And when you eat the whole apple, you're going to feel full, you're going to feel satisfied, it's going to reduce your overall calorie intake and your desire to binge eat. This translates into an overall weight loss. Now, I like apples because they're readily available in supermarkets, in hotels, and airports, and in schools. There are over 7,500 varieties of apples worldwide. And we eat apples in America as if they were a Native American plant, but they aren't. They actually originated in Central Asia, specifically the region around Kazakhstan. Now, did you know that each apple tree is unique? No two apple trees produce the same type of apples. Apple trees actually require cross-pollination from other apple varieties to produce fruit. And here are 6 of the most popular apple varieties. Now, I eat easily 4 apples a day because I just love the crunch, and they have been shown to reduce the risk of various gastrointestinal cancers and heart disease. You can even eat dried apple rings, but be careful with apple chips, apple juice, or apple cider. And by the way, applesauce usually has this chemical sugar or some other sugar. But even if they don't, applesauce has less fiber, it has less vitamins, it has less antioxidants, and kids love them because they are easier to eat. And any food that is easier to eat is also easier to overeat, especially ones that lack fiber. Hence, a problem with engineered processed foods, even homemade ones, like your cupcake, is that they lack fiber and they're heavy on the starch. Now, starch is an industrialized ingredient. Can you make starch in your house? I don't think so. Take white rice. If you got rice grains from the rice farmer, can you make that white rice? I don't think so. It's an industrialized product designed to make cheap foods that last longer. So the next time you are slurping down that bowl of pho rice noodles or enjoying that mochi or eating a bowl of just plain white rice, just know that you're eating an engineered ultra-processed food made out of starch. And really, if you think about it, starch is related to this cup of sugar. So you make starch by putting glucose molecules together. Have you ever strung popcorn together to decorate your Christmas tree? Well, if you break apart the string, all the popcorn just falls apart, right? And that's what happens to starch when it hits your digestive tract. All the glucose just comes out, and that's how you get a blood sugar spike. And that's why white bread is pure sugar. And we have so many variations of white bread, right? Cereal, pastries, croissants, donuts, sandwiches, crackers, dinner rolls, pizza. And no matter how you dress it, it's still white bread. But it's always worse when you add fat to white bread. Mac and cheese or pizza. They're worse because they're a ton of fat. The presence of fat inhibits your body from metabolizing the glucose. And this is because it turns off sugar metabolism. You can't eat sugar and fat together in excess and expect to lower your cholesterol or to lose weight. Fat makes people insulin resistant, and it starts with a fatty liver. So when you become insulin resistant, your muscles, they refuse to take more sugar into their cells. This causes your sugar to remain high in your bloodstream, which then causes your pancreas to secrete more insulin. And high insulin levels causes you to store more fat. You see how this is like a circular problem? It's kind of like telling your kids to clean up their room, but then they just move their mess into another room. Now their room isn't clean and the house is just overall messier. Now have you noticed that there's this food craze amongst plant enthusiasts and keto carnivores with coconut oil? Now coconut oil is cholesterol free because no plants have any cholesterol. Cholesterol is exclusively in the animal kingdom. And dietary cholesterol, it doesn't significantly increase blood cholesterol. And what increases blood cholesterol is dietary saturated fat. And coconut oil is a highly refined processed saturated fat. And that's why it solidifies on your countertop. Coconut oil looks and tastes nothing like coconut. A raw coconut has fiber, vitamins, and minerals like potassium. Who eats a spoonful of coconut oil? Well, keto people. It's not going to taste good, and that's why the keto diet is very hard to eat. Vegan butter, hydrogenated oils, or even real butter. They're all highly processed fats that have a lot of saturated fat. Butter tastes and looks nothing like milk. These engineered saturated fat blocks, they lack essential minerals and a food matrix that makes it easy to blend with other ultra-processed ingredients to make those ultra-processed foods that are so hard to resist. Those things are cholesterol time bombs. And if you're going to eat that, be sure to eat the antidote. Number 7, lots of broccoli. Broccoli doesn't just have fiber to lower your cholesterol, but it has phytonutrients called glucoraphanin that actually reduces LDL cholesterol levels through the induction of an antioxidant called NACPro. Now, oxidative stress basically makes you age. We all have it. It's part of life. But your body actually has a way to manage it. It makes shock absorbers to protect you from the damage caused by oxidation. And one of your shock absorbers is called NACPro, or nuclear factor erythroid 2 related factor 2, which is an enzyme that helps transcribe messenger RNAs to make proteins. Activation of NACPro also appears to prevent fatty liver, obesity, and diabetes. Now, when glucoraphanin gets converted to sulforaphanes, those sulforaphanes have cancer protective properties. And if you want to maximize your sulforaphanes, pre-chop your broccoli for about 30 minutes to an hour before you cook it. The reason why you should chop it is because when you do that, you're breaking the cell walls and then you're releasing an enzyme called myrosinase. And those myrosinase enzymes are necessary to convert those glucoraphanins into sulforaphanes. Glucoraphanins and sulforaphanes, they are basically exclusively found in the cruciferous vegetable family. So this is why if you don't like broccoli, you can actually eat red cabbage, which is number 8. And I just basically wash the leaf and eat it like a chip. It's super crunchy. I know I keep saying avoid saturated fats, but I don't want people to misunderstand that we should villainize all fats. In fact, there are essential fats that our body needs. They are called omega-3 fatty acids. And eating half a cup of walnuts, number 9, every day can increase your omega-3 or polyunsaturated fat levels, which also have been shown to lower LDL cholesterol and reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease. The reality is, every 40 seconds, someone in America is having a heart attack. And the average age this happens in men is in their early 60s. Now, some people may think I'm kind of being a little bit too aggressive about blood cholesterol levels. And my point is not to eliminate your body's cholesterol. And in fact, your body needs cholesterol. It is important to make hormones, your cell membrane, which is the sac that holds all your cells together. It's so vital that, the cholesterol that we measure in your blood, so that's just extra material. Your organs, your various tissues, they can make their own cholesterol. And in fact, the cholesterol in your bloodstream doesn't even actually get to your brain, which is like the fattiest organ that you have. That LDL cholesterol can't cross your blood-brain barrier. It's such an important molecule that your body needs to be able to control it no matter what you're eating. And this is why your brain has the ability to make its own cholesterol. It doesn't need this stuff in your blood. Did you know that after you eat, your LDL cholesterol can stay in your blood for 3 to 5 days? And this is why when you go on a diet right before you get a blood test, it doesn't change your cholesterol levels. Now, we've talked about various nutrients lowering blood cholesterols, such as omega-3 fats, fibers, and sugars. And the last nutrient is protein. Chances are you're probably eating some kind of meat or fish if you have high cholesterol. And if you can just substitute 10% of that animal protein with some high protein black beans, then you can significantly improve your cholesterol levels as well as your longevity. Now, black beans are high in leucine, as well as resistant starch, which have been shown to reduce toxigenic gut bacteria and increase butyrate producing bacteria. And as little as 3 days of making these dietary changes, you can actually reduce Firmicutes bacteria that have been associated with obesity. And if you want to know some other ideas to improve your gut, watch the next video.